Hey, everybody, this is Deborah Peters, and welcome back to the Deborah Peters Show. I have an amazing guest here with me today that, bless her heart, she jumped in at the 12th hour. I had something technical. But before I introduce her, I want to share something with you because this is a podcast about living life on the leading edge of thought. And I realize I probably haven't unpacked that very well for all of you. And I want to take this opportunity today to do that. So, what does that mean? Living your life on the leading edge of thought? Well, it means, I suppose, a lot of things because everything is about perception. But for me, what it means is really stepping beyond what you currently know, having a desire and a curiosity to do that, and then being willing to ask yourself higher level questions such as, what else is possible? What have I not thought of yet? What am I not doing that I could be doing? What have I done that I haven't taken far enough? Just any kind of positive, forward looking, forward moving kind of questioning that enables you to raise your consciousness. And in raising your consciousness, obviously, you become more self aware and you're actually more open like a parachute. The mind only works well when it's open, and being willing, along with that curiosity, to explore the possibilities of what you haven't considered before. And all of that is living life on the leading edge of thought. It's applicable to your business, to your relationships, to your body, to your money, to how you express yourself and your relationships in business. I mean, it encompasses everything because who you are being is who does the doing. And with that said, I'd like to address something that is encompassed in this whole narrative of being a more conscious individual means that there are no victims. And I realize in today's world, there's a huge emphasis on being a victim. And so, in order to be a victim, there needs to be a perpetrator, there needs to be someone holding you down. So that's an outpicturing of your energy. That's an outpouring of your power that you're giving away by allowing your mind to play tricks on you, that you're less than, that you have no power, and that actually anyone, someone, something, some entity, some circumstance in life could actually control you. And that's not really how the universe works. It's not how God works. It's not how you work. So the willingness to take control of your thinking, of your emotions, of your vibration, everything that you put out energetically into the world, and making new choices for yourself. So what brings all this up for me today is, in last week's episode, there was a conversation around childhood trauma and the impact it has on you as an adult at work and in business. And that's another huge conversation today, is that you as an individual are powerless over your career trajectory, over your business growth, because there's these external people, paradigms, belief systems that are holding you back. And with that came a conversation around marginalization and privilege. So I'd like to unpack that. I think today's guest is right on target with providing tools to back up everything that I'm saying right now. Thank God. So in the concept of marginalization, and listen, I understand that you can feel marginalized. I have felt marginalized in my life too. However, when you look in the mirror, when you have a conversation with yourself, when you're doing your self growth, your personal development work, and you're changing how you see yourself through that work, you realize that you really have control over these kinds of experiences. So it's not that I don't have empathy or compassion if you feel marginalized. It's that I encourage you not to continue to beat the drum of being this powerless victim in the world, in your world, that actually keeps you apart from your gifts, your talents, your potential, your possibilities. Because as we've discussed before, what you are seeking is seeking you. Experiences and reality cannot be realized without you as the portal. And your thoughts, your emotions, your vibration, your relationship to the world, how you see yourself in the world, your model of the world, all determines how your reality shows up for you. And maybe when you're in a place of feeling powerless and marginalized, you want to fight back at what I'm saying right now and blame and point fingers and project. But if you keep doing that, you will always be the victim. You will always be powerless. You will always be experiencing these kinds of experiences in your life that mirror back to you the very belief system that you have. And within that is to look at people that we consider to be privileged and blaming it on them. And I'm not talking about certain powers that be human beings that have put themselves in positions of power on this planet to make their money off of the backs of others. I'm not talking about that disproportionate um, level of awareness. I'm talking about when you look at others and you point the finger at them and you say, because you have X, that means I can't have my X. And nothing is further from the truth when you shift how you see yourself and what you project out into the world. When you stop blaming others for anything in your life, then you actually put yourself in a place of realizing that you can too have, be, do, and have whatever others be, do, and have. So, how do you flip that on its head? You see someone in a position that you would like to be in, and instead of saying things like, must be nice, or they're privileged, I'm not, it's their fault, my life sucks, or whatever it is you say to yourself, you look at them and you say, wow, if they can have it, so can I. If they can drive that car, so can I. If they can live in that mansion, so can I. If they can be famous, so can I. If they can be the CEO, so can I. And use it as a model to adjust how you think, the emotions you allow yourself to entertain, and then literally the vibration that you're putting out into the world, and do it on a consistent basis with passion and watch the results come back into your life. And then you never have to point the finger at anyone again and say, oh, they're privileged, therefore I'm a victim, because it doesn't exist. There's no such thing. I used to do this training in the corporate world for women that believed in the glass ceiling. Now, before you shoot the messenger, I want to tell you that as I broke that down, as I broke down that pattern and unpacked the elements of that pattern and how it actually then increases the thickness of your glass ceiling, they, as my audience, as my clients, began to apply that in their lives, and it changed everything about how far they were able to go, because you'll only go as far as your belief system says you can. And therefore, it's never anyone else doing it to you. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow because we live in a society that is structured around victimhood, and it's applied to geography, it's applied to education, it's applied to whether you're a man or a woman or a girl or a boy, it's applied to your occupation, and it's applied to how you grew up, how much money you grew up with, and whether you had a leg up in life or not. But I'm here to tell you that some of the most abandoned, abused, and sort of put upon people in the world as children and as young adults and adolescents actually have turned into our biggest achievers on this planet. And yes, there are people that have had a leg up, that have had a helping hand, that are also achievers, but that's not the dialogue. That's not the conversation, because that's more victimhood. When you look at someone and you say, oh, well, they had generational wealth behind them, or they had a father or a mother that was famous and therefore they were ushered in. Perhaps you're right. And so you have to ask yourself, do you want to be right about that and hold on and defend that limitation? Or do you actually want to achieve what you want to achieve in your time on this planet? Which, by the way, if you keep playing the victim game, you're going to burn off that time, unless you plan to live to 300 years. Time is precious. I always say to people, it's probably the only unrenewable resource that we have. And so use it wisely. So that's my soapbox for today. I have to say that that comment got by me, and I endeavor to be more present in the podcast so I don't let things like that go by me and have you think that I align with victim mentality, because I do not. This is a learning curve for me as I build out this show, and all the things and software attention I need to give it, et cetera, while I'm also engaging with my guest. And then there's this whole thing about looking at the camera to make eye contact with you, and then not being able to look at my guest because the camera's in a different part than the feedback is. But hey, it's a learning curve. I'm getting better at this. So thank you for your patience, and let's get on with it. So my guest today is Carla, and Carla is this magnificent woman that has created a format and a place for women to really embrace who they are on every level. And she's a former, I guess you're never former anything. You're a psychologist, well trained in the understandings of the makeup and the workings of the human psyche. And she does it with a little twist. So I am not going to reveal that. I'm going to let you do that, Carla. So thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad this worked out today. This is wonderful. And you say with a little twist, I'm going to say with a little spin.
There you go.
With a little spin.
Well,
Yeah, so do you want me to, my name is Carla, and I own the Stiletto Gym and Polga Pole Yoga Fitness. And yes, as Deborah said, I'm a psychologist as well. So I like to say I'm the pole fitness or pole dancing therapist or psychologist. And that kind of gets people going, what? What is a pole dancing therapist?
Right.
And it's a therapist who found that pole fitness and being in that studio environment with other women empowering other women is the best therapy that anyone could possibly do.
Oh my God.
All my years in therapy, when people sat across from me, I figured out really quick that that wasn't working well. So I would get out yoga mats and we would do yoga together because that's my training. That's my background before I found pole fitness. And now I just use the pole.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
Using, it's interesting that we say this, and then I have a little secret to tell a little bit down the road, but physical movement when repatterning your neurology
Yes.
is really powerful. And I remember this was like 15 years ago when I was really ramping up in using repatterning exercises with
Mhm.
my clients, maybe a little longer. And I was in a volleyball tournament. So we would go to the beach, of course, and we would practice. And I kind of self-discovered it in a deeper way. Like I already knew that it worked, but you know, when things are theory but then things are actually applied and you experience the shift, nothing, you can't argue the point with that, right? So I'm on the beach, I'm in this practice, and I'm saying affirmations to myself about actually my ability to nail the hit where I wanted to put the ball. And I just started nailing it like every time, because I used to have this limiting belief that I was not a good spiker because I wasn't tall enough to spike the ball. And I'm like, you know what? I am just not going to tolerate that anymore. So we were playing, we were actually practicing, and I'm like, I'm a great spiker. I can put this ball wherever I want. I have great vertical. Every time I jump, I have my vertical expands and increases. And it was like, man, everybody else was like, wow, what is going on with you today? And it just shifted because your body has memory, right?
Yes. So it's muscle memory, and you're exactly right about those beliefs. And I see it when women, especially, come in for their first class. We do have men as well, but when women come in for their first class, they're automatically, their statement and their belief is, I'm not strong enough. I can't do this. Um, this is not going to work for me. So automatically, and then they begin to verbalize that.
Yeah.
And so without them, I shut them down from those thoughts in their
Reframe.
mind, reframe,
Yeah.
and I say, okay, let's try this. And so I take them step by step so they don't have the opportunity to those thoughts continue like a thought loop.
So it's a
And
pattern interrupt.
it is. It's very much a pattern interrupt. And I put one leg on the pole, put your hands on the floor, and I take them into a basic handstand. And all of a sudden, they come out of that
Wow.
handstand, and this is any age, shape, size. The way the body is positioned on the floor and on the pole, anyone can do it. And at that point, those limiting beliefs begin
Yeah.
to lessen, and their belief in themselves begins to become more of the emphasis. And it's beautiful, and it happens class one. Generally, in our first class, no matter what it is, that's what we need to start focusing on, is the
Mhm.
beliefs.
Yeah.
Because the mind is first and foremost, and then what happens in the body is secondary, and it's like bonus.
Yeah.
But it's more of letting go of those beliefs you come into the studio with. And
I
then,
bet I bet, through this process, you see a lot of women change their bodies because you
oh,
know
yes,
that
yes,
that old saying, like, the issues are stored in the tissues, it's
yes,
like
yes,
the toxicity, the buildup of the chemicals that
yes,
are
yes.
produced in the cells by the negative thinking. How come
Mhm.
no one ever talks about that?
I don't know. And I think, so in a setting like my studio, or when you're in a pole fitness setting, I should say, that people just kind of let go. Like when they come
Yeah.
in, automatically they let go. And then you begin to take them through this process, and they're not even thinking they're going through a process.
Yes.
Um, and I'll tell them, you're going to have sore muscles tomorrow. You're going to
Yeah.
feel good when you
No
leave here
kidding.
emotionally. Tomorrow, you're going to have sore muscles. The next day is going to be even worse. And you're going to maybe feel sick, like a disruption in your internals, just because you're moving and you're beginning to, like you said, all that negative, those thoughts and that
Ah,
energy and all that is stored in the body, and you start stirring that up. But that's just part of the process. And at the other
indeed.
end is you feeling better, both physically and emotionally, having more energy in life, being able just to, get up in the morning, look forward to what the day is going to bring you.
And tap back into your vitality. So,
Yes.
what's
Yes.
interesting is, and I see this a lot, and I have to be really careful how much I'm observing it so it doesn't become my dominant thought process. But one of the things I do notice with women is it happens in baby steps, and maybe they're not aware that it's even happening kind of until
Mhm.
after the fact, and then they're wanting to do this big course correct. But women have a tendency to start to disconnect from their sexuality. And not all women, obviously, but that's not what we're talking about. It's like once the babies start coming,
Mhm.
or once the maybe even before, once the marriage is nailed down. And so, I had in one of my other shows, I was talking about how there's this statistic that in our lives, we typically only advance about 40% of our capacity, for our greatness. And so where do we stop doing that? It's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like we start dialing back how freaking amazing we are, and
Yes.
start replacing that with this aligning with entropy,
Mhm.
where we start to just like disconnect from that vitality. So I can really see where what you're doing is probably should be every woman, I think,
Yes.
should have to or get to go through at least 4 or 5 months of this. I don't even, what do you want to call it? It's like therapy, fitness,
I know.
joy,
It's like
happiness.
pole therapy. It's just, and like I say, we can call it whatever we want to call it, and
Yeah.
people feel comfortable calling it with whatever they want to call it. Um, just the fact that they've stepped in out of their comfort zone and
Yeah.
into something new, and they've taken the chance. And I've had women say, I've been holding on to your phone number, or you've been in my for a year and I've been so nervous to call. And I'm like, please don't be like, and then they're like, I should have done this a year ago,
Right.
because you're stepping into the unknown, and that's okay. That's
Yeah.
healthy, and that's what you want. And that's what's going to, like you said, move you forward. So you're not living that life, 40% of your life. And where's the other 60 going? I mean,
I know.
and
It's
and
kind of sad.
and and like you said, when we get married, and we're all women, and I'm a business owner, and I'm a mom, I have a 17-year-old daughter who's a lot of, right now it's a lot, but you can't forget the woman you are. You can't forget to tap into that feminine side of you, because that's so important, and that sexual
So
side of you,
powerful.
and just feeling good about you. And as women, we put everyone else ahead of us, and we've all heard this, a million times. But allowing yourself to do something good for you,
Mhm.
and whether that's pole dancing, or going for a hike, or you know taking a new job, or whatever it is,
But it
allowing
has to
yourself
be,
to live.
yeah, and it has to be outside of your
Yes,
norm,
your norm.
or you're
Yes.
just repeating a pattern in a safe way, and you're pretending to yourself that
Mhm.
you're actually taking a risk, which, there's such a fine line between really going for it and being okay with being uncomfortable, and telling yourself you're going for it when you're
Yes,
really not. I mean, it's so easy to manipulate one's self
it's
and
very easy.
say,
We're gonna
"Yeah,
put it off.
I'm doing it. I'm doing
Yes,
it."
and you
But,
don't.
I find that there's so much power in a decision, because the decision is where it all starts. When I have people come to any of the seminars or trainings that I'm teaching, the decision, the day they agree to talk with me about it, And then that's one decision. And it's the change work is already happening. And then from there, they need to actually make another decision to commit. And it's like anything else in life. You have to make decisions to move forward, because unless you make the decision, it's just mental masturbation. And so I've talked about that a lot on my show. It's this mental masturbation without the execution. And
Yes.
I think that's the biggest hurdle to getting past that 40%. So making the decision to pay, they always say that there's nothing until the check clears the bank, until the money's in the bank, you don't have a commitment, right?
Right.
You just have a
Exactly.
bunch of talk. And so making that decision to pay, there's another decision. And each one of these decisions actually compound on each other in terms of giving you back your power. And then actually walking through the door for the class, there's another decision. And now your power is increasing. Doing that first handstand is another decision, and that power is increasing. So what you're really doing, it sounds to me like, Carla, is you're bringing women back full circle.
It is. It's exactly what we're doing.
Right? To
It's
who they
exactly what we're
really
doing.
are. Yeah.
And I always say I'm tricking you into working out.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Because that's many people come in for a variety of reasons, but some of it is like, oh, I just want to pole dance. I want to get in shape. But in
Right.
actuality, it's much deeper. It's much more than just, getting a six-pack ab and being able to climb the pole. That's just part of it. But it's much more in an emotional level and a mental level, as well as physical, and beginning to shed those beliefs that are not
Yeah.
serving you anymore. We hold on to these beliefs and we get them, in childhood and as we're growing up, and all these, and they're subconscious. And so a lot of times we're not even controlling. I mean, we're not aware that these are lingering in the back of our head somewhere.
Like a virus just
Subconsciously,
percolating.
they're self-sabotaging you, so you're not going to make those decisions. So all these things are happening in the background. And what we want to do, or what I do, is disrupt that. Break that pattern, begin to form different beliefs, and it's something that's consistent. So consistency is the key. And if you're enjoying what you're doing, you're being encouraged by other women. Every time you come to class, you feel like, oh, I'm stronger. I'm more confident. I feel good. I feel good in my body. And some of these women, they're like, they start, say, for instance, Joanne started 2 weeks ago, and she wouldn't take off her, not her pants are on, and, she's a little shy. And
Are you guys getting naked over there?
no, not too naked. But I mean, if you want to stick to the pole, then pole shorts are something you need.
I just wanted to clarify that.
We don't get naked. And so then all of a sudden she's, feeling confident, and you could see when she walks into the studio, just her energy is more confident. The way she holds herself and carries herself, she's interacting with other people. Everyone's cheering each other on.
And now her whole life is getting better.
Yes. And it's what you do on the pole. I used to say this in yoga, and I still say it on the pole. What you do on the pole or on the yoga mat transcends or transfers to your real life. And all of a sudden you start taking these things that you think are only designed for working out or for pole fitness, and now you're injecting them into your own life.
For sure. Because, I used to own a gym. I owned a gym for 10 years, and I had similar situation with the weight room. Like, I'd have women that were afraid to pick up anything more than a 10-pound dumbbell because they didn't want to, get muscles. And it was hilarious. By the way, I have like a great bicep.
Yes, you do.
I'm proud of my guns.
You'd be great on the pole.
Well, that's another story that I'm getting to. And the thing is like, I really believe that if you can't own your body, the most fundamental part of you is your body, because it's how you get around. You can't
it's
go
what
to work.
carries us through life.
Yeah.
To
If you
appreciate
can't
that and to
own
honor
that,
that. Yeah.
exactly, and if you can't
Mhm.
own that, then every other part of your life is at a deficit, even if you're not willing to admit it to yourself, and I think that this really is about moving past body shame,
Mhm.
sexuality shame, and being empowered regardless what you're doing. You know,
Yes.
women have accepted this, and there's for me it's like, is it really the men that do it to us,
No.
or is it us doing it to ourselves
Yes.
because we've bought into something?
Yes.
And you know, there's one thing to have something traumatic happen to you as a child, whether, you know, like I was molested as a
Mhm.
kid and I was in an abusive family, alcoholism, violence, you know, just like crazy making stuff and emotional abandonment. I mean, I could go on and on. And a lot of my viewers know my story, but that happened. I don't have to keep perpetuating how
Yes.
bad that
Mhm.
was and dragging that into who I am being today and who I want to be in the future.
Yes.
So when you can own your body and do so unapologetically, like you mentioned, her walk changed.
Yes.
You know, when you
Yes.
can strut your stuff and whether other people around you feel insecure about it or not has nothing to do with you.
Nothing. Nothing to
Yeah.
do with you.
So I
Nothing.
have a confession, and I never talk about this. So this is like way out there. So I think it was about 2004. It's a minute ago. I had a really bad breakup, and I was like, oh, God, my heart was broken.
No.
Plus, it was a really sort of emotionally violent relationship, very codependent. I swear to God that this guy was all of my past rolled into one person.
Uh,
That's possible. Um, and we had a lot of trauma bonding between the two of us, where it was just like the energy was really thick and it was really hard to let that go, even though it was hideous. Um, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I got to get myself together here. You know, I have a business to build. And so I saw this article in the LA Times about someone that was opening up a pole dancing
mhm.
um, studio. And I'm like, there's my answer. You know, when all the lights go ding, 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 go do this. So I sought it out and I signed up and I took 4 years
Oh, that's
of
amazing.
classes. Yeah. And I was just like, you're right about being sore, girl. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like my upper body. Back in the day when I owned my gym, I used to do chin ups like a crazy woman. And then I lost it. You know what you don't use, you lose.
Mhm.
But the pole classes brought it back. And so I would weep every class. I would cry and weep. Couldn't stop it through the entire class. And I was like that for probably the first year. And it wasn't just um, weeping over my relationship or that whole unwinding of that trauma bonding dynamic with
Right.
that crazy guy. But it was all of the shame that was stored in my body from being molested as a little girl and having it blamed on me. And then all of the everything, like everything that can, and I
Mhm.
don't want to scare your clients away, you know,
No,
but I just, for all everybody watching, men and women, you know, this stuff gets stored in your body
it does.
and releasing it is the key to vibrant health, clear eyesight, you know, good skin, bouncing out of bed in the morning because you
Yes.
can't wait to jump
Excited
on
about the
top of
day.
your ideas and what you're
Yes.
creating, quality relationships, like it just never stops. it's the gift that keeps on giving. So I want to say thank you for creating what you've created, even though you're in Kansas and I can't come.
We have
But
an in-home program, so you can. Do you have a pole in your home, Deborah?
I gave it up. I probably should invest in, I
You
moved
should make
around a lot for a while because I was that person trying to find myself.
it. Well, the poles travel with you. You can
They
buy one for
do.
your home, and you can. Yeah, we have a whole program that is nothing but stretching on the pole. So it's a lot of
Right.
meditation because, again, that mindfulness piece is so
Yes.
important. So it's meditation, how to relax, meditation, and just stretching. And again, even if you're not pole dancing, just
Right.
the stretching you could get on the pole and the
Oh God, yeah.
strengthening. And again, allowing that body to heal itself as the mind is healing as well. So, Deborah, you
Mhm.
could do pole yoga at home, polga at
I
home.
could.
You
I
could
need
do
to get
that.
my inner pole dancing on again.
Yes, you
It's like,
do.
yeah.
Everyone, my goal is to have, so for pole not to be taboo. And I will tell you that.
Well, that's the shame part, right?
Yeah. So compared to, well, the whole industry compared to when I started in 2006. And as Deborah said, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. So I'm in the middle of the country. And um, yeah, I opened a pole studio when pole was
God
not what it
bless you.
is today. So talking about stepping outside your comfort zone,
That's
I,
awesome.
I had a yoga studio because my background is yoga, traditional fitness, and of course, psychology. And
Mhm.
I opened a yoga studio and decided, you know what? I heard about this pole thing. I think I want to try it. And then I want to add poles in.
Yep.
And so, but when I did a class myself, like Deborah, I knew the impact it
Oh
had
my
on me.
God. Changed my
And
life.
I thought women, especially, I mean, men do it as well. I have male instructors, but women especially would really benefit from this. So
Oh yeah.
I I stepped outside of my comfort zone and continued my pursuit, even with critics and people saying, "Oh,
I'm
you can't
sure.
do that," and "What is this thing you're doing?" But I believed in it so much and that it would help and empower so many other women that I stuck to my guns no matter what.
Yeah.
And so now,
You
16
were the
years
game
later,
changer. You were the game
16 years
changer.
later, here we are.
Yeah.
And now it's more, it's more common. I want poles in everyone's houses. Well, not everyone's, but whoever has a Peloton should have a pole. I'm
Right.
just
I love that saying. I know you mentioned that to me earlier, and it's like, you're right. If you're gonna spend the money on a Peloton, get yourself a pole.
yes,
100%.
yes,
It's interesting, on that note, because moving past these societal norms is really what we're
yes.
talking about.
Mhm. It is exactly.
And using something so simple to set yourself free, it enables the body to take ownership of its greatness, because we have so much stacked against that. And it's not just women anymore, it's men too. When you look at the fashion industry and how you're supposed to, I've always had this thing about, when people ask me, so how old are you? And I'm like, what do you care?
Yeah.
Why do you care? And then I get the feedback of, well, why can't you tell me? And I'm like, I can tell you, I choose not to. And the reason I choose not to is because you're going to put me into some sort of judgment box about what that should mean based on what the world says that should mean, which is a lie. It's a program that is utilized to keep people in line, basically.
Yes.
At
Yes.
20 you should look like this, at 30 your life should look like that, at 40 this is where you start to decline. These limiting beliefs about once you're 45 your eyesight should go. All of these like
I know. I don't
programs,
understand that. That's just
insane
like,
to me.
what do
I
you
just
say? Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly
it's
with you on that one.
insane.
Yes.
So what happens is you get on a pole and you actually start to tap into parts of yourself that you've been in denial about, or that you've judged or suppressed or flat out rejected and said, I'm not enough. And if there's any limiting belief, entire paradigm that I deal with my clients, and all my clients are men, all my clients are CEOs of mid to, small to mid-sized companies, ranging in age from like 38 to 60. And the number one thing we work through is their self-worth. So this isn't a gender thing. This isn't a
No, it's not.
sex thing. It's your training, it's your programming. When any individual starts to tap into their self-worth, there's no limitations.
There's not. There's not.
It's incredible. So we're coming up on, we've got a few minutes left. What, from a connectivity perspective of mind, emotions, body, what can you offer to just have people start to think about and get a sense of tapping into their greatness?
So I think just sitting down and figuring out who you are and what you want. Setting some time to meditate, to be still, to be quiet, and reflect on you and where you foresee your life. Like I always told my clients when I was doing traditional therapy, if I could wave a magic wand, where would you be tomorrow? What would your life look like? It doesn't matter what your circumstances are now. This is temporary. Where do you want to be? And then,
can I just jump in there for a second?
Yes.
Just hold that thought, because I
Okay.
want you to complete it. When you said that, I immediately had really solid, clear visions pop up of what my life would look like. And so I think that's the first step, right? Is to allow yourself to imagine.
Right, to be free in your mind.
Yeah.
So to be free in your mind, and then begin to set steps and take charge of your life. So for instance,
Action. Yeah.
take action. So whatever that goal is, I want to feel good physically. I want to be able to touch my toes or walk up and down a flight of stairs without whatever that is for you. So I'm just going to take the physical. So then you begin to set smaller goals. So maybe your goal is to go to a pole studio. We'll just use that.
Sure.
And so you set a goal. I'm going to call. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to pay for the class.
Take action.
Next Tuesday at 10. So I'm going to pay for that class and I'm going to that studio. And then you go to the studio and then you begin to acknowledge those limiting beliefs you have, and you begin to replace those limiting beliefs. And again, if we're using the pole studio as an example, so now you've allowed your mind to be free, and you are able to allow yourself to think beyond where you are today and where you want to be tomorrow. And so you allowed that freedom of the mind. You've taken some action steps to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
Now you find yourself in a pole studio. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
And now you acknowledge, oh crap, I had that limiting belief that I'm not strong enough to do this handstand. Oh, look at me. I'm standing on my hands. Wow, I'm amazing. So now you've began to reprogram those limiting beliefs, again, because they're subconscious. And this takes time. You've built up these limiting beliefs for years. They're not going to be gone tomorrow, but you need to then set a pattern for yourself, some consistency, some habits, develop new ways of living and thinking and moving. And then, it's like 1% every day. You're getting 1% better every day. Every day. It's like compounding interest.
Because it takes repetition,
It takes repetition, yes.
Somewhere between 3, 7, and 21 repetitions to build a new habit.
Yes.
And that's what, that erroneous saying, it takes 21 days. It doesn't take 21 days.
No.
It takes somewhere between 3, 7, and 21 repetitions.
Mm-hmm.
If you do it once a day, that could be days. If you do it 2, 3 times a day, things start to move really quickly. So that's why all the successful people in the world meditate in the morning, and then
Yes.
they write down their intention for the day, and
Yes.
then they revisit it 2, 3 times throughout the day.
Yes.
And the last 5 minutes before you fall asleep, get into the zone of what you're creating your life to look like, because that is how you start your next day.
Yes, and I have a 7-step program. In fact, I mean, it's a 7-step. It's I call it the F Factor 7-step, and we talk about that. And people can, I'll direct you to the website. They can
Yeah,
get
give
that.
us that link
But
so people can
it's
get that.
meditation, mindfulness, being grateful every day, starting every day and ending every day with some gratitude.
Yeah.
Writing down your goals, being intentional with what you're doing and saying and being. You mentioned
Mhm.
earlier, be, do, have. You have to do that. I preach that all the time.
In that
Be, do,
order.
have. Yes,
Yes.
in that order. Be, do, have. You got to be, do, and then have. And just daily intention. So I have 7 steps that people can go to the
Awesome.
website and grab to. Yeah.
All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna have your links in the show
Okay,
notes
perfect.
when the recording posts.
Yay.
Definitely, ladies, order yourself a home pole kit,
Yes.
and everybody download those 7 steps, and then just get after it. It's what are you waiting for? I mean, seriously.
Exactly. And I even have a program of how to find room in your home or find a pole room in your home
Good.
to bowl. So those are both on the website as well.
That is so cool. So, just a quick testimonial that has nothing to do with me on this. I had a girlfriend, she's since passed, bless her heart, Sally, and, we were having tea one day, and I'm like, "Sally, you really need to get into pole dancing," because I was telling her, that this is what I was doing, and it's like maybe my 3rd year in, and she's like, "You're still going." I'm like, "Yeah, seriously, you need to do this. It'll change your life." So, she did, and, she found a studio near her home. She signed up, she started taking classes. Fast forward something like 5 or 6 months, and I'm at her wedding, and I walked out onto the deck. It was on a boat, and I walked out onto the deck where her husband was kind of preparing himself for the ceremony, and, said hi to him and wished him well, and he turned around and he saw me, standing there, and he goes, "Oh, God bless you, God bless you." Because he's marrying a woman who was, like, 6 months into pole dancing, and
Yes, it's
I'm
it's
not gonna
it's
say
the
any more about
magic
that.
of the pole and the magic of the studio. Yes.
And the magic of you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Deborah.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, and thank you for being here today and jumping in. Such short notice. For those of you that saw, I had a different guest earlier. She wasn't able to make it. Her city was blacked out in terms of Wi-Fi. So,
Oh
Carla,
no.
you are a champ. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity and grateful that you asked me. And this has been wonderful.
Yeah, and we're gonna have you on again. We'll do a part 2, and with
Hey,
that one, we'll be able to blow up lots of pre-show promotions and whatnot. So,
excellent.
yeah. So everybody, thank you for being here. Remember, stay aligned, stay awake, and stay sovereign. This is Deborah Peters for the Deborah Peters Show.